Next up, we have Kanoi Malani and Doug Beaton, and they're with the Soil and Water Conservation. And remember, back in September when we had our meeting, we talked, and to refresh everybody's memory, we talked about did they have a plan for the dairy. And they had talked about they had a plan for the dairy. Whether it was followed or not, they're not a regulatory body, so they couldn't force anybody to follow the plan. And then when Brad came up, he said, well, they kind of mimicked it. So we don't know really what was done, not necessarily what they had planned. So since then, we want to hear from them what has transpired since then. You know, did the plan get followed, or what did they recommend?
So since our last meeting, the plan that they had was an older plan. So we are currently working on a new plan for them to address the issues that they have today, not issues that were projected when they first had a plan. And Kanoi, how far along are we with that?
So we are, we kind of just started on revising the plan. So we're about a couple of months in. We had some hold up with some of the assessment programs that we use. And so that's kind of been fixed a bit. So we have something to work off of now, and we can start moving forward.
And if you don't know, we work in the NRCS office. Kanoi is our planner that we hire with the limited funds that we do get from the county and the state. And we rely on NRCS. Drew especially, he's the engineer right now, only for the island with our great hiring freeze. So he's working with us and the dairy to do that engineering. What we're doing is just hands on the ground, trying to help them. And we have seen some things that they've done. They've started to plant grass in that lower section, which they talked about before, to help mitigate any water coming down and not utilizing that for a corn crop any longer. So.
And your best interest to report to the state and federal agencies that can see that it is done?
So far, the protocol that I know of is through the county. Our plans are they sort of serve as an agricultural exemption to the county's grading or grubbing permit. So as long as the work is covered in our conservation plan, that's exempt from having to go through the county permitting process. If the county gets a complaint from one of a resident, the process is normally that they contact us, ask if they have a conservation plan, and if they do and they're following it, then they're okay, usually. But in this instance, they are not following it. And so that's why that's kind of how the process goes. And then they go and contact the farmer and say, okay, we know that you're not following this plan. Can you bring it up to standard and work on it again? We cannot provide the copy of the plan. That's personal. It's a personal thing.
We are just an exemption if they follow the plan. If they don't follow the plan, then it's up to them to go back to the county for a true grading and grubbing permit. And that would be every time they harvest, which would be very difficult.
That's the biggest problem. Everybody shooting their chops. Nobody got their loop.
Yeah, and maybe that would be a very good thing for the community to do, is be invited to go up and look.
Well, okay, well, like you're saying, maybe that's something for the community to want to do.
And the
right,
county.
But we were here 6 months ago, and believe me, the Mike Cooey's, Mr. Frazier here, a lot of Mr. Cardoza, we all offered to go, and they told us not to. That they're gonna figure it out. Right now, okay, so let me get this straight, because I want to make sure that if we need you guys at the table or not, and how we move forward. So soil and water conservation is only active if the farmer wants you to be active with them.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Correct. Okay. So basically, you're working with the farmer, and when the community comes up with, hey, this hasn't been followed, you're not responsible in taking your findings to let the state know that something may be happening here, that you may flood out this community, and you may end up killing people but it's not your kuleana.
I'm not saying that. We just don't have the expertise. We have a planner with a college education who's trained partially by NRCS, who is not an engineer, not a civil engineer, and we cannot do that kind of work. We're not.
You cannot report it to the
We could report it, but what happens is, Kanoy just explains, if there's an issue with the farm that has runoff, the county will call us when a complaint comes in. They'll ask if there was a plan. And if there was a plan and they're not following it, it's up to the county now to go back to them because they're fielding the complaint and address that issue, which I believe the county did do.
Did the county call you?
The county called us on the dairy?
Yeah, they did.
They're addressing it.
Well, you're going to keep going around in circles
Right,
until you
right.
have an expert's report on the situation up there. And when you talk to the county, when you talk to the state, when you talk to the federal government, you need that report on the table with everybody looking at it. And then you won't be arguing about what was done 6 months ago. Okay? I don't know who's going to hire that kind of an individual, but it has to be done.
I just wanted to say that the practices that we use, they're based on farming. So when it comes to residential, issues, it's not usually what we cover.
Yeah, the problem for us is they're Malka of us, yeah? Any farming that is done, which I've been having problems in Honamu, Hakalau, and all the farming started to flood our local communities down below. So I think you got to open up your scope of services to say, hey, we got to look beyond just a farm. We got to look, is what we're doing up here, is it going to destroy a community down below? So maybe that's where the engineering comes in. So Ken, maybe at this time NCRS, our USDA, if you don't mind going up and...
No, I was just going to say that I think that would be possible if we could get more funding and get more people to help out and have more planners on staff. Just because we're constantly getting influx of new farmers who want help through our programs too. So it's not just the dairy. There's a lot of farmers that come through wanting help. So great.
But we're always trying to take into consideration protecting our local communities that were there for generations before that farmer came in and kind of messing up what's happening below.
Right. So on that, I just want to say that the soil and water conservation districts are locally led. They start from the community. So any community members that want to put in input into the district and even possibly become a district director, we encourage that. And having your expertise and your background and your concern for what's going on in the farming sector, that would be appreciated.
If we get a group, call you guys together. Will you guys work with us and allow us to go with you guys up there?
As long as the dairy allows us, we will. I mean, we can't, and that's the next thing.
We got to talk to everybody to make sure we have all the pieces together. But thank you so much, Soil and Water Conservation. But however, okay, remember, they're going to be working with all the farmers. We have to work with them because they're going to be Malka of us. So we got to make sure we don't lose this puzzle piece because somebody's not putting the puzzle together. So we as a community got to bring all the puzzle pieces together and we got to hold it together and we got to hold people accountable and we got to be actively involved with that. United we stand and divided we fall, and it was falling for these years. So.
I work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We are not regulatory. I want to make sure that's clear to everybody. The regulatory agencies here are the county and the state. So the agency I work for is not regulatory. But I'm happy to be here, happy to answer any questions you have. And basically with the conservation districts, they write a conservation plan. If there is engineering work on that plan, I typically review it to see if it meets our standard. We have our own conservationists that are part of the USDA. We do a very similar service. We work with farmers and ranchers voluntarily. And if any work that's identified on the conservation plan that would normally require a county grading and grubbing permit, they're exempt from that permit if they are following that conservation plan. Do I look at overflow from storms? Typically, yes, for a farm or ranch or a dairy. Sure. What goes on that conservation plan is voluntary. They don't have to work with us. They could go right through the county to do any kind of work that they do with us. So the regulatory agency is the county. The fact is, I can't go on somebody's property unless they ask. I've been on the dairy numerous times, but it's been with the previous owner. So I haven't been on. You are correct. You'd have to ask them. But what I'm saying is, if somebody asks me to come take a look, I go take a look.
So I have Amy Cook with me from the wastewater branch for the Department of Health. Okay, so the DOH does acknowledge the complaints and shares the community's concerns. If large amounts of waste is making its way to state waters, that is a problem and it must be addressed, whether it's human, industrial, or of animal origins. Based on the inspection that was conducted on the Big Island Dairy in December of last year from our enforcement branch, the dairy does not directly discharge its wastewater from its dairy operations to the gulches in the area. The dairy uses its wastewater to fertilize the fields and holds it in a wastewater lagoon on the Hilo side of the property. We do not know if excess wastewater used to fertilize its fields is making its way to the gulches. This may be through stormwater runoffs. We have informed dairy management that discharging this wastewater to state waters is prohibited, and that dairy management has stated that they do not discharge wastewaters.
But when the water came down, we remember it clogged the highway, the state highway culverts. They came down, clogged even hours more, and then it came past the houses. Yeah, so it was right. It was from 2014. So all of that keep coming down, and so what the county has been doing is clearing out those ditches. Correct?
Just all the culverts and stuff. We're trying to open it up. Hopefully it flow. Pretty much, if we got to go in our county parcel, we got to open it up. We got to open it up.
So when can we expect for the county to come in and clean that contour ditch on the county parcel?
No, I'm not going to give you a date. I'm not going to give you a time when. Okay, because you used to work county, you know how busy we are. Okay, so we're going to get there when we get there, and hopefully it's soon.
So Mackie, when was the last time you guys cleaned it out? It was from 2014.
It was right after the big rains in 2014, I think it was. Because I went in there myself to go check that contour ditch. And because it was all filled, it hasn't been maintained for years, I sent in the crew and the equipment to have it cleaned.
So 2014 was the last time. Well, we'll go into it. I'm not sure. I'm not going to give you a timeline. I'm not going to give you a date when we're going, but we're going to go there soon.
But a lot of times they jump on and prioritize when it becomes a safety need, and over here it's becoming a safety issue. So at this time, I'd like to ask Brad if he could come up. Thank you, Brad. So, and how about a hand for him, because he showed up. He showed up.
They say that's half the battle, is just showing up. So I guess to start off, I mean, it sounds like there's been everybody in the rooms basically made their opinion. Is that more or less the case? It sounds like, I see a lot of head shaking. Everybody's basically said the dairy's bad news.
Yeah, keep up there so everybody...
Dairy's bad news. There's not much that I can say anything to change minds or what we've done. That's what I'm saying is all of the news that comes from here is everybody's. That's I guess what I'm trying to find out is it worth? Do you guys really want to know what I have to say, or are we already signed off saying, okay, we're going to form a committee, we're going to do this stuff? But wait, Val, let me.
I just want to start this off really good, okay?
That's fine.
We appreciate you coming. We do appreciate you coming. Instead of setting on a negative note and all you heard what the community wanted to hear is from the 6 months ago what has been done. Yes, we all have our opinions, and yes, many of them think it's all from the dairy. Majority of the people think that. And yes, and you cannot blame them for that. All we asking is be a good neighbor, and right now be a professional businessman, and just tell us what you've done in the last 6 months, and how can we move forward as a community to make sure we can build a safe and healthy community and be a good neighbor and wanna support the dairy.
So let me clarify. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to find out whose opinion's already made, who wants to know my side, and listen to what I'm saying. And I'm not being negative. Val's exactly right. I'm a positive person. Okay. So as long as we're okay. So since the last meeting that we've had, we had all the diversions were gone through and cleaned out. Okay. Those diversions are the same diversions that need to be cleaned out and maintained, which led to the issue of the flooding the last time. The water that came through breached those diversions and went like a cascade down the hill, obviously going through each one. We've had rainfall since then. We monitor, kudos to the county for cleaning all the culverts.
Question. Did you have an engineering expert come in and tell you after you clean the berms that was enough so that it wouldn't run over? Because a lot of these cane berms, they get reshaped, like every 10 or 20 years because they get eroded and they're not as high, so they don't hold the water.
So about what we've seen in our farming practices, about, I'd say every 16 months, you need to go back in and clean out the topsoil that's been brought there. And usually our practice is you push it on the downside slope so it actually makes the berm bigger.
The other thing, when you go up about Highway 19, there's the first diversion, right?
Correct.
Is that diversion towards the Hamakua side redone?
We actually went through there and put that all the way through, because actually on the plan, or previous, that did not have a diversion going all the way through. It stopped about 3/4 of the field. We actually went and put it all the way to the gulch on the backside.
I'm just asking because I didn't even look, but I
Yep. Yeah, and that was one thing that we noticed, that, hey, there's a diversion in place, but it actually doesn't go crossing the whole field.
The other thing that we have a problem is that paved road going up to the mountain, it's a gutter of water.
You're exactly right. And there's issues that we're working with the state trying to figure out how to make, which they've discussed, crowning the road, getting the sides off, right?
That was a no-brainer. I talked to you before with the civil defense guy.
Yeah.
And
you told me you was going to call me. I'm not God. Well, we could have fixed some problems. That's why I say 6 months ago, nothing got.
well, if you actually drive the road, you'll actually see we did do stuff on that road. I mean, and you're right, I did not call you. We did it ourselves. So as far as the runoff goes, I think we've caught that point. The plan with the NRCS is what we're working on right now. It takes time, as obviously, to change our farming practices into what the NRCS recommends. Okay, my main goal is to try to make that dairy work, but I've got all these pieces I've got to make happy too. And I understand there is a smell, and I understand everybody. I mean, that's the elephant in the room that everybody.
Why was it so much more in the last several days back there?
Thank you.
I don't know. I can't answer.
Do you know why that would be?
Speculation on my part is, whenever we get a change of weather patterns, cold air brings down that smell. That's my speculation.
Okay, so spray stuff from the pond on your fields?
So we do apply manure onto those fields.
So you wait till a sunny day to do that, but then that night, when it cools all down, then the smell is gagging.
a lack of trade winds too, though, very definitely.
Is there like enzymes to help break down all that bacteria out there?
It's like the smell.
So I would love to say there's a silver bullet.
But there's not. So Kauai, take note, Kauai, to this, exactly what he's saying.
Because they said they promised, the first owner promised that it would be no smell. No smell whatsoever. They lied.
There is smell.
They said they weren't going to have no smell. That's why we allowed the community allowed them to build. Because there was going to be no smell.
What you've done so far is great. Unfortunately, it's not enough. And what Val said with the aqua system, the fellow up here is responsible for the water that goes down there. This one's responsible for the water that goes down there, and so on. And so you are responsible according to that system. That's our way. It's not necessarily the law. It was once. That's why the Hawaiian word for law is a law, which is water. So water and law were very important, and they were intertwined.
Good point.
Yes, sir. This gentleman started the conversation. The most important thing that's been said tonight, you know, he's talking about is drinking water. Now, I don't know how far this varies from some of your wells, but I can assure you, you people want well water, I'm sure. You're not on. You're on well water.
Yes.
Okay. What this gentleman is talking about is the most important thing. The smell is horrible. It's terrible. Okay, and other things we're talking about. You lose your drinking water. Now, Des Moines, Iowa, they have 500,000 people. They lost their drinking water. As Bridget says, hundreds of communities. Drinking water is something you really better be concerned about. And I've been told, as you said, that they're having problems with people putting filter systems on some of their houses, and you're getting other sand problems. I would be real concerned about and your aquifer. You need to study your aquifer. What's under that barrier? Where's your main aquifer? And
Our main aquifer is right over here on this property.
Where we're at Kauai, our main drinking water, 3 wells, are only 700 feet from the dairy. Okay, and so the dairy, through all this work they put up, they said they're going to put test wells in to show contamination. Well, our expert from Montana, who's the #1 hydrologist in the United States, he told us as soon as that test well gets nitrates, it's too late. Your drinking water is ruined. It's gone. And as Bridget said, you can't chlorine out nitrates. So everybody in this room, everything you're saying is valid. No one's talking about the drinking water. And you can live with smell. You close your windows, whatever. You can't live without your water. Think about that. It's really important.
I'm going through some medical problems right now, and they started when I moved here. They started when I moved here. My skin tears. These hunks just going like this, okay? I've got cancer all over my body that we're taking care of. This just started when I moved here. I have concerns, if you can imagine. I've got all sorts of things going wrong with me, and it's since I moved here. Right now, I've got 5 or 6 things of cancer on my body right now, and they're going to start doing bone marrow tests. I've been healthy all my life until now. So there's something going on.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're going through that. That it doesn't sound. I mean, the story that you guys told me, you know, your situation, it's not the way you want to spend your golden years. And I hope that's.
I will take one more question, and then I want to bring the Department of Health up, because they are the regulatory body, and they are the ones going to be help us to keep our community safe. Go ahead.
So, Brad, you're saying that ponds up there won't overflow into the streams? Is that what you're saying? They don't overflow into the streams?
They do not overflow. Now, could they ever? You bet. I mean, there's always things that could happen,
So
and I
couldn't have overflowed already.
no. I mean,
Well,
well, let me. Could, I mean, you've seen, well, and she said there's no guarantees. That is a hazard. But can I answer, can I say why? Don't ever go in the gulches. Number one, because you don't know what's going to happen there. I can guarantee you the population of pigs that we have, you have populations of pigs in there. You have risk for flash floods. Now, you guys can laugh at me and do what you want. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't go in.
I'm just going to tell you something. The pigs is not causing that water. We know that for a fact. The pigs are not causing that water coming down.
And do you have some funds or insurance that could help the people that are being hurt right now?
As far as?
Where their land's being contaminated or where their gardens overrun with pollutants?
That one I guess I couldn't answer. I can't answer that.
And the wall collapsed? Yeah.
Well, see, I guess I can't answer that one for you.
And my concerns are the smell from the dairy that affects us, the runoffs that we've been having from flooding that came into our property, where we have gardens and we grow our own food here. One day I went to my sister's and it wasn't raining and I heard the river flowing, so I took a look in the river and to my surprise I saw brown water with bubbles and it was very disgusting. I got a video of it and the smell was just horrific. Water comes down and it trickles down to our community in our property where we grow and so forth. So that's my main concern. And my family gathers in these waters and not only in the ditches, but not this ditch here, but the water is ending, the dirty water is ending up in the ocean, cliffs where my family dives and, and gather. They gather for our food on the table. They said it's high bacteria levels in there and there's no signs up yet, and hopefully they'll be able to warn the children, that we've learned how to use all these natural resources for our own personal, feeding our family. He doesn't realize the bad smell that we've been getting. This is very emotional for me.